Okay, we are live.
Are we really?
Yes, we are live, y'all, on the internet.
This is the first time I've ever been live. Yo.
We're live. Hi, Rudy Crowns, Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Instagram. We are live, and it's not just me and Lev. It's like my mom.
Family.
Oh, wait. My mom, my niece. Say hi, Kata. I don't know.
You're on YouTube right now.
No, nobody's on yet, I don't think. Oh, so but I shouldn't talk, but it's a video. I can see it later.
You never see her really.
And then my other nephew. Say, okay, and that's Ronil, my sister. Hey, Ronil. Say hey, Ronil. See? And then that's Ahmed. Say hey, Ahmed.
Hello,
No, I didn't. No, I think I did the Kata, right? I did say hi. And it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, and it's on Facebook.
You're on YouTube Live.
I'm on YouTube, Facebook. Okay. And then my father. Hey, wait, hold on. And then that one, and then. Okay, I can't. Sorry, YouTube. Okay, you go.
Let me hold the phone.
I'm just gonna try to set it up next to the table. All right. So there we go. We didn't talk to him. Okay. Habari Gani, everyone. Imani.
7th day of Kwanzaa.
Yes. Welcome to everyone who is here. There's a couple people on the lives. I'm trying not to mess up anything. So we are going to be celebrating Kwanzaa. That was good lighting, Jay. We're setting it up now. It's like you're here with our family about to celebrate the 7th day of Kwanzaa, Imani, which means faith. I wish.
How's that?
I'm so sorry for everybody.
Yeah, it's good, bro. The lighting's perfect.
Yeah. So if y'all, I think I'm gonna be most dynamic on Instagram. So if y'all want to follow us to be able to see different views of this, I guess, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, or Patreon at Rooted Crowns. So, all right. So, Father, would you like to begin the Kwanzaa? No, you can't do it. Go Instagram. Yes, Father, please.
Habari Gani.
Imani.
Okay, we always begin our Kwanzaa activities with the libations, and we have a plant. Well, I'm the elder. Well, no, I'm not the elder. So,
I give you.
I've been watering. I watered this.
No, I already got another plant.
Oh, this is another one?
Yes. Okay, Mom.
What do I have to do?
Give permission.
Oh, yes. You have my permission.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's my big room.
So, we begin, as we all know, libations, with pouring libations, an act of reverence, an act of remembrance, an act that says that we are acknowledging those who came before us and ask for the blessings of their spirits to continue to support us in the work that we do. So we will begin. We're not going to try to read Maulana Kalinga's phrase anymore. Oh, very good. Oh, you already got water. Oh, fill the cup. Okay, I'm gonna drink that.
Okay.
So we begin by acknowledging our ancestors, those who we know of, the ancestors to all humans, those first human Homo sapiens sapiens that walked the planet, remembering their identities. We symbolically identify them as Adam and Eve, but we know that these were people who came into being on the African continent and carried that spirit forward. So we pour libations to the first African ancestors. I say we pour libations to the memory of those ancient Africans that served to create civilization, to build the first empires and the first major systems. People like Ramesses, Akhenaten, Hatshepsut, and Queen Tai. We pour libations in memory of those Africans that we can recall who served to protect and defend the homeland against ancient invaders. People like Hannibal, Ashe, Ananzinga, Ashe. We pour libations in memory of those who fought against the enslavement of our ancestors. Those who, like Frederick Douglass, Ashe, and Sojourner Truth, Ashe. We pour libations in recognition of those of our ancestors who fought for our civil rights in more contemporary times to help to create an awareness of the sameness of our people with all other people who call themselves citizens of America. And we people like Martin Luther King, Ashe, and Malcolm X, Ashe, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Ella Baker, Ashe. We're going to pour libations to the memory of our own ancestors who made it possible to directly to support, to make our lives mean something. My parents, Ted and Helen Hawkins, Ashe. Call them out. Ashe. Ashe.
Celestine Jones.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Charles Jones.
Ashe. Ashe.
Leroy George Nelson.
Ashe.
Stuart Sanders.
Ashe. Ashe.
Uncle JJ.
Ashe.
Thomas C. Christopher.
Ashe. Ashe.
BB Khan.
Ashe.
Aunt Lorraine.
Ashe. And
Sophie.
Ashe.
Bobby Savage.
Ashe.
Uncle Stephen.
Ashe. And to the memory of those known and unknown who died in the period called the Middle Passage, that moment in which our ancestors were broken from the African continent and imposed on this place here. Ashe. To the memory of those who died seeking freedom, seeking to break away from this society, that enslavement period. Ashe. To those who died at the hands of the lynch mobs, who for little as looking at someone, they were lost their lives. Ashe. To the memory of our children who today are dying in our streets, we say Ashe. And to the future, those who are yet to come, that they might be able to live the lives that they need to have available to them. And now we say Ashe and Ashe, Ashe, and may we live our lives so that one day our children, and grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren will see fit to call out our names because of the good work, the important work that we do in the lives that we have today. Ashe, 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 Ashe. Very good.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So the next part of what our program, look at him trying to eat. Daddy, can you say the next part of the program?
What are we doing?
Just
part of the program.
what's the next part? So
The next part is
like the candles? Or?
identifying the symbols.
Yeah, let's do a little pop quiz, y'all.
Come on over this way. We need somebody, y'all over this way.
Y'all see, come here, come on.
Come on.
Slide through.
Come on.
That's
Come
okay.
If you got the cheat
Come on.
Got your cheat sheets?
Come on.
All right.
Alright. And boom.
It's a pop quiz.
It's a pop quiz.
Come on, man.
Let you fix it.
You guys have been practicing for y'all been participating in Kwanzaa
Sorry, Instagram.
literally all of your lives. So this should be second nature to you.
If it's not, it's okay.
But
We'll
that's
work together.
okay. We work it out. So we talked about the 7 symbols that we pull together on our Kwanzaa altar. And we start with the thing on the bottom, which is what?
Ooh,
Makeka.
Makeka, which is the what? The straw mat. Right. All right.
Man, starting off
And
so
what is
right.
And what does the straw mat represent? Hey.
There you go. There you go.
I'm so proud.
Then we talk about the next symbol.
What you pointing at? Oh, Kanara?
Oh no.
Mushroom
Let's see the answer.
Oh, is that pop quiz?
Oh, we don't know.
Ah, yes.
That's
That's
the candle.
the candle holder, right? And what does the candle holders represent?
The roots.
Huh? The roots. That's good. Yes. Our family lines. You know,
Right.
the family foundation.
Nice cut.
You know.
Yeah.
All right. The next symbol are the Mashimba Saba, which means what? 7 candles. And they represent what? The 7 principles. You gotta speak up now.
Yeah.
Big mama ball now.
Yo,
You got it. You got
Ifa
it.
Soto's joined. Okay.
Yeah, I know. We got Ifa Soto here.
Peace,
Welcome.
Baba.
All
We
right,
got- we have,
peace,
um,
peace.
Rancho Loom
We
High.
have
All right.
Yaya, but I can't remember her name.
Wasida.
Wasida, welcome, Wasida.
Wasida.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And now what else we got? What other symbols?
Unity Cup.
The unity cup.
Kikom Belson.
Yes.
Unity, yeah.
Yes.
So you remember.
And okay.
Kikom Belson.
Right.
Okay, there you
And
go.
it stands for
Unity Cup.
unity. Coming together. We also have the Mazeo,
Mhm.
which is the fruit, which represent what?
Harvest.
The harvest, right?
Yeah,
Right?
preach.
Now, and also we have here
Corn.
the corn. What's the name? What's it called? Muhindi. And what does that represent?
Children.
Children.
Right. Very good. The last thing I think we have as part of the symbols
Mhm.
are
Sawadi.
the gifts.
Y'all here
Right.
for.
All right.
Because on the 7th day of Kwanzaa, the youth receive their zawadi. It's also a feast, so we got some sweet potatoes for y'all.
The purple ones.
Purple ones, yeah. We got
Yeah,
purple,
we got
local
purple.
purples, which is a
Yeah.
special treat.
All right. So we have we talked about the symbols. Then now we need to actually talk about the principles
Mhm.
and light the candles.
Yeah, y'all should switch off light.
Anybody want to volunteer?
Okay,
No.
Kyler. Yeah,
All right,
Kyler.
We're gonna take turns.
You want to take
I'll take
turns?
turns.
All right. I
Yeah,
do
we
that.
have a lighter. Where did light go?
I got a light.
Yeah, you took it away.
Clear up.
All right, so y'all, let me make sure y'all can see clearly. Our family.
I got the second one.
Greetings. Oh, hey, Janaki, are you coming? I mean, yeah, she on Instagram.
This one, this one.
Bring us some
Yeah.
chicken.
My mother said bring some chicken, Janaki, but don't do that. Come on.
We're Monday.
Always start with the first, with the middle candle, which is the black candle. And we light the candle.
I go, mom.
Amen.
So, umoja. Exactly. Okay, who's next?
Gucci chocolate.
Yes.
Black, red, next.
Where are you? What you got your glasses on? What happened to the light?
Light just went out.
Oh, I can turn on more lights. Oh, it is really dark
There we
now.
go.
Y'all got used to some good lighting.
Big drip, big drip. Koji Chakuli.
All right,
Second.
which means
Self-determination.
self-determination. Let me get this light over here working.
John, you just?
Thank you.
Okay, next candle. Jama,
Jama.
which means collective work and responsibility. Cooperative economics. There we go. Cooperative economics. All right.
I thought it was too. I knew.
And
Spell
next.
old enough to like?
No, he's not old enough to hold.
Is he gonna help me with this?
Sure. Hey,
Don't give it to
what's
him,
that
man.
candle?
Yeah.
Purpose.
There you go. Purpose.
Creativity have done.
All right. Next. Kuumba.
Which means creativity.
Yes, yes.
And the final candle.
Hey.
Imani. Yes.
You.
Hey, you can put that candle out. All right. Beautiful. So we have lit all the candles.
Did you say what the today's was? Meaning?
Yeah. So today's principle. Let me just get. Okay. Today's principle is, if you don't know, is Imani, and it means faith. And we are going to discuss what that means to us, and just and really like how we hold this principle in our lives. So, however you want to, how like we've been celebrating this all of our lives, at least all of our children's lives. And, how does this show up throughout the rest of the year for us, for us all? And yeah, make sure, matter of fact, just come like closer. Like, matter of fact, just stand. When y'all gonna do it, just stand in front of the thing and speak loudly so the whole world can hear. Y'all want me to go first? Mommy, you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Mom, you're the mom.
I'm the mom.
That's it.
Hi, I'm the mom.
They can't see you yet. Almost. There they go. Right there, perfect.
Okay. Imani is my favorite and most relied upon and grateful for that Imani, which means faith, was included in the 7 principles because we don't stand alone. We stand on the shoulders of a one God. In my experience is that, and while I walk in Christianity and I've grown in my relationship with Jesus, what he has revealed to me is that his Father is one. And around the world, there's diversity in what we may call the one God. There's diversity to me in how we approach him and how our relationships are with him, her. Because the universe, I believe, is one. And so my relationship is unlike anybody else's. And each person has their own relationship. If it's a relationship with the one God who leads you to go before him, before her, and ask for strength, then to me, that blessing, that prayer, when answered, is a declaration of, I am.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Mama.
She kind of summed it all up.
Wow.
Where's the shaker rattle?
Where's the rattle?
Yeah,
You had money.
You did.
Yeah, my mother left in the bathroom, the bathroom. So,
Alright,
who's next?
Who's going next? Baba Kareem.
Dad, you want to go next?
Sure.
You gotta sit right here so everybody
Stand
in the
over
whole
here.
world can see.
We can be seen. How
Or you can
I
stand.
Sit right here.
Yeah, you can
Right
sit.
here.
Sit
If
is
I
better.
stand, my head's cut off.
Right, and so I mean, I can adjust it. But you sit.
Okay. Well, faith is the substance of things unseen, but the reality that carries us through our lives. We have faith that the earth will continue to turn. We have faith that the sun will rise. We have faith that, gravity will ensure that whatever goes up comes down. And we have that faith is guided by the notion that all of this happens by virtue of a singular force that carries the universe to be what it is. So whether you're, irrespective of what faith, tradition you come from, the belief that there is something beyond ourselves, beyond our own control and influence, that is in charge, that will see to it that what is supposed to happen happens. That is the essence of what I believe is belief. And it is that faith in each other, that faith in our ideas and principles, that they will be validated. All of that comes together with this principle, with this idea about what it is that causes us to move beyond ourselves. It's not just about me and what I do. It's about us and how all of us fall in accord with the great divine movements that are guiding all. Praise God.
Thank you.
Amen.
All right, so.
The thing is louder than the seat.
Switch seats somehow so you can sit close enough to the camera they can hear you. So that the word can hear.
Okay, you coming over?
Oh, I thought I was switching seats with them.
I was just saying that rattle is louder than it seems.
Yeah, sure does.
I'll put it down.
You gotta shake it like. All right.
I actually wanted Pele to shake it.
Huh?
What the person said.
That's not share what you got.
I was just basically going to say what Grandpa said, that faith carries us through life, and it gives us hope for what is to come, especially in a society where there's so much stuff happening, like kidnapping, brutality, all that type of stuff. So in a place so bad, I feel like hope just keeps us thriving, keeps us going every day. That's all.
All right. Thank you, man. There we go. That's how you just the rest. Anybody else want to turn next?
I'm on.
I'm gonna go last since this is my channel.
I thought it was a shared channel.
It's my channel. It was my idea.
I support it. She's the main force behind it.
All right, come close and say hey. Please, thank you.
Alright, basically what I had to say was kind of like what they said, but I just think faith is it's important to me because I haven't always believed in a single God, but I've always had like higher like being or something. Like I've always had faith in, and that has like kind of carried me and led me through my life. And I think that's important, just because, like Naila said, um, in a world like we live in today, it just helps us keep pushing. And like without having that faith, and like it doesn't matter like what religion you are, like just having that faith just helps you live life a lot better and easier.
That's right. I agree.
I'll go quick and make it quick.
Okay.
Hi. Well, I just want to say kind of the same thing. Faith is basically something that we all have in common. No matter what your religion is, your race is, it's something that we all can come together and agree on. As you see, we all have come from different places, different races, different families, different lifestyles. And faith is something that we all can cling to. It keeps us, like Nadia said, hope. It reassures us. It keeps us grounded. I think that this is my favorite principle also, because when so much is going on, like when you have, for me personally, death, my mom, her passing, I needed to keep that. I need to hold on to that because I was missing so much from her. But that faith kept me grounded, and it kept me strong, and it kept me pushing to have to stay strong for my family that I have of my own. So that's why that principle is so so dear to me, because without that, I would have been lost. So.
Are you hiding her, Tyler?
What'd you say?
Is she hiding?
Okay. Yes,
We're not gonna let you hide, girl.
well, yeah, no.
It's all right.
I think having faith, it like kind of like shields you from like the bad things, because like nowadays like a lot of bad things are happening in the world. People are like dying and stuff, and like when you go out or if one of your loved ones go out, then you have faith that there will be.
All right.
Look, somebody can sit over here if they want. Show them all. Okay.
You going or am I going?
Get going. I was just making room for someone else to sit over there.
So, for myself, I related to what Ahmed said. You know, in my life, you know, the belief aspect of belief has been changing and has been evolving. You know, over the course of my lifetime. You know, I was, you know, given a certain perspective growing up by my parents, and as I grew up, you know, grew and experienced life and came to a relationship with, you know, a higher power. You know, I began to that perspective began to evolve, but you know, regardless of beliefs, like everybody's saying, regardless of belief, there's a point in one's life where you know, you call upon energy, you call upon a certain power to get you through a certain experience, or you may even experience at different times in your life that you're not alone. Even if you don't see anybody else around you or nobody accompanying you through an experience, there can well, to have that faith, you know, and to know that like even there's the unseen ones, whether it's the ancestors or whether it's, you know, deity or divinity, that there's something there that's guiding you or protecting you or sending you the energy that you need to get through an experience or a challenge. And when I was in Brazil, I liked what they said. One of my friends, I don't know if this is how everybody, in Brazil thinks, but there's, and faith is fé in Brazil. They say fé. But fé is F-E. And they say that means força espiritual, which means spiritual force and spiritual power. So basically, when they say a lot like, go in faith or go in and what they're saying is go and walk in this power of your spirit, the spiritual power that you call upon. And I think that although I met a few people who kind of had God complexes, I think most people who are down to earth recognize that we're pretty, like human beings, our power is limited. We have a certain capacity at which, is our domain, and then there's a domain that's beyond us, and we recognize beings or a being that is responsible for us, our lives, and our whole existence around us.
Amen.
You got something to say, Kelly, before I say something?
No, just wait till you start talking. We got plenty to say.
Any comments here? Oh, Rachel Taylor joined. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
Baba Kareem, apparently you
I
joined.
Why are you live online?
Comedic Genetics joined. What's up, Comedic Genetics?
So, for me, faith it's an active word, and it's something like everybody said. It's something that you walk by way of, you live by way of, and for me, I think it's you co-create by way of with faith that you're in the right frequency. So, like, to me, it's about having faith and then tuning in to the sense of godliness, righteousness, alignment that you can be by way of to further nurture that presence in your life. It's like I like to use really visceral words like sense and sip and taste. It's like if our whole being was the mouth of the God, how can we perceive? How can we do something that would be worthy of that being? Like how can we, what we see, what we think, what we surround ourselves with, the people, the experiences, how can that be an affirmation of the creative force and of all the nuances therein? And so faith for me is a process of nurturing that for as myself and as others, or towards others within a wholeness that is one. So I don't know if anybody on live wants to say. I mean, if you want to write like a blurb, we can try to read it. Dad, please don't write a blurb. We'll try to read. We'll pay attention. Oh wait. Faith is very important, says Janaki, my sister.
All right.
I'm exercising my faith right now by removing myself from a toxic situation. Ashe. Fear has held me hostage for 2 decades, but I'm trusting God to guide me through.
Yes.
Janaki. We love you, Janaki. I don't know, you're probably not coming. I mean, you late, so if you come here, go get this. All right, so if anybody brings anything else in, that we read it. But usually in the next of Kwanzaa is we have a celebration. So I have a song. Anybody can join once you get the rhythm. You can join. It's really simple.
I have a request.
What?
Can you do that one that's like?
What?
You
should do that in the very beginning, because that's we're here to greet you.
Okay, we can do it at the end.
Okay. It wasn't the song I was gonna sing, but we'll do that first. Okay. You can't beat though. Y'all heard it before, but this is my favorite song. In relationship to faith, I think it's very apt. Air my breath and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood. Air my breath and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood. I'm gonna gotta hear you. Air my breath and fire my spirit, earth my body. If y'all keep it up, I can do another sound. So keep going. Air my breath and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my. Are y'all doing it one more time?
Air my breath and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood.
Oh, great Spirit,
my spirit,
earth, sun, sky, and sea. You are inside and all around me. Oh, great Spirit,
my spirit,
earth, sun, sky, and sea. You are inside and all around us.
earth
My breath and fire, my spirit, earth, my body, water, my blood. Air, my breath and fire, my spirit, earth, my body, water, my blood.
What are your thoughts, youngsters?
We'll sing another song?
You got a song?
No.
Any requests? Let's see what somebody wrote. All right, Mama Danny wrote, she said, Ashe. Danny, what up, lady? She wrote, I just hopped on, so I'm not really aware of the conversation. The thought I have is, we cannot have change without active listening of the mind, of the heart, with eagerness to understand. Thank you, sis. Yay, boy. All right.
That's it.
Let's see what's going on here. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. So I guess we get to see the house tables, right?
Absolutely.
Wait, what?
We gotta
Only
sing
the
the
first
song,
two words.
Okay, go ahead.
What was it? I don't know.
I got to know.
What?
I know you know.
What song? What song?
I'm trying.
What's the name of the song?
Sorry, Instagram. There we go.
Move the computer over a
Get
little
busy
bit.
over there.
That one, yeah.
Okay.
Look at you.
Oh, you doing
It's like
okay? Sorry, finger. Sorry,
closer
Instagram.
together.
Oh, that's smart. Okay, there you go, Instagram. Pele. Girl, stop mispronouncing my son's name.
That's his nickname.
That's all.
Hey, that's
His name is not Pele. Hey, his name. Oh, let me give y'all some water so I can put some ice in again. You're not on my child. He will take wow. Sorry. It was a joke. It was a joke. Say it backwards. All right. Yeah, I'm saying what?
No.
All right, really not. All All right, so we're gonna
how about just a quick statement about what you all feel about Kwanzaa?
I love
Wait.
Kwanzaa.
I think I appreciated it more.
Might coming in.
It's Janaki. Oh, it's Janaki.
Sorry. She text him over. Janaki! Yeah, thank you for calling him the right name.
I never called him Filet.
That
That was him.
What you say, Daddy?
Hi.
Yo, welcome. That's my sister Janaki and my nephew Jackie came, but they went straight to the kitchen for some reason. I don't know why, but they're here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on.
Yeah, we on camera. We'll be on camera.
You got, they can't see. You gotta come over here to say hi. Matter of fact, why don't you tell us? Well, you already told us, but if you want to elaborate on what they
Hi, Johnny.
Imani.
What's up, Jackie?
Okay, Jackie, can you say something about what they do? So you gotta come over here and say it though.
Sit next to your mom.
Come on. Don't be shy, Jackie. Right here.
Come on, Daddy.
Everybody went. Come on.
Everybody went,
Like,
Go ahead, Johnny. You got 3 things to do. Sing a song as well. You gotta sing a song as well.
I can't force you to do it. Okay, well, Jackie, you can come back over here now. Oh, Jackie, you sit here. Alright, so I'm trying to answer the question we asked.
Oh, are you not going? You're not going?
No, they're not gonna go. Janaki already went online, and I read it out loud.
I answered because he was driving.
That was
That
the
was the first
question.
thought that came to mind.
What was that?
What?
She was at a red light, texting.
All that? She texted.
Alright, y'all, let's get back on topic. We on the internet, they watching us.
Yes, we got
They can't.
unseen peoples in the room.
Yeah, there's people who talking on the corners. But alright, Father, can you answer that question again so that you
The question is, what do you all feel about Kwanzaa?
I think I didn't appreciate it as much as I was younger, and I didn't really like. I mean, I understood it, but I didn't really appreciate it until like now, or the past couple of years.
Why is that?
I think it just like came like with maturity as I just like started paying attention more, and as I just started realizing things.
I think the same thing goes for me. Not necessarily that I didn't appreciate it. I always knew the importance of it. And I always appreciated like the family time and everything. I guess I really didn't, not necessarily understand, but really like think about it too much. Like I didn't really go in depth with Kwanzaa. So like a few Kwanzaas ago when I was like probably in like 7th or 8th grade. And I think it was always a nice celebration to have, especially with the family. And even now together today. Because it always brought us together as a family and to discuss the things that are happening around us. And I think more people should learn to do that.
Wonderful.
I think it brings the community together, like because like we're barely now that we're all growing up, like we're barely all like see each other. So I think it brings all of us together.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Jai?
Kwanzaa, like when I was there, I didn't understand none of it. Like nothing. It was just like another celebration for me. And now, like as I grown up, I like understood like what it meant to our community. So it's like a learning experience to learn about people before you and what they mean for us now.
One thing I always say, you've heard me say all the time, is how, as African Americans, we learn a lot about what it means to be American, but very little about what it means to be African. And Kwanzaa is the only time of the year where our Africanness is emphasized and celebrated, where we look at not just the color of our skin, but the character of our culture and those things that make us special in one respect, but also the same in another. You know, Lev mentions earlier how, you know, those 7 principles are universal. They're not just for African peoples, but for African people, it means something very special to us because it's a chance for us to validate our humanity, to recognize that where we come from and who we are is as legitimate as anyone else on the planet in terms of their human character. So we should never feel that something's wrong with us because we black. That's should it be out of our thinking. That should not even come into being. But yet, we know the pressures that come on us in our society. We play the game ourselves. We talk about who's lighter and darker and all kinds of things like that as a misuse of our consciousness. And Kwanzaa helps us to, I believe, give voice to the lie, to the fact that those ideas are lies. They are not the truth that should be guiding our lives. So I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts about why this is so important.
Did you hear he said, yeah, bo.
I'm interested to hear because Janaki is my first child, and we started not from her birth, because we were doing it before her, but to have lived in Kwanzaa for all of these years. The difference is I could hear some of what the younger ones are saying. At one point, it probably was, oh, I do Kwanzaa again, or something like that.
For me, Kwanzaa is important. It's imperative. The principles are imperative to utilize them in your individual life and then go forth into your family setting. And then each one teach one as you move out into the community. I think that each principle speaks to the being. Oftentimes we choose one. As we were celebrating over the years, we would say what our favorite principle was until you realize that they all were important. I can't even pick one anymore. So that's what Kwanzaa means to me. Just exercising what the principles mean to yourself. And then our community at this time we are in need of having these principles instilled into our lives to build our communities again with that love, that faith, that self-determination, understanding our purpose. That's what's going to me.
Same to you, Faye, same question.
Because I can reposition the cameras. Okay, there we go. Oh, you want to be the camera still? How's that? So I think, for a long time, I was confused with Kwanzaa because I would hear principles like unity and cooperative economics, those two, and I wouldn't understand what cooperative economics meant at all. And with unity, I would be like, I don't understand. Like, if all of human history started in Africa, then how is humanity not African? Like, I just did not get it. And when I finally within the last few years started to understand those two principles, that's when everything started to come together for me. When I started to stop like calling any, like there is no such thing as a white person to me. There are Africans with that dynamic lineage. We've all started in Africa and then we all got to this point. We're all still African and we all need to acknowledge that before we can come together and stop hurting each other and the planet. Like when I got that, I was like, all right, now I can stand better with Kwanzaa. And then when I started understanding how we could do cooperative economics, really up until like a few months ago, understanding what I can do with that and how we can have cooperative communities within a capitalist structure and be together with peace and not be based on money and debt, on land, and have businesses from that to the outside world, but not amongst ourselves. Like when I got that, that's when I started saying, okay, these principles are sound. I can't challenge them at all. I align with them completely, and it really is the guiding light of my life. In some ways, like it really is. Like when I want to step beyond, my perspectives about womb being creation and all the other stuff. When I want to step beyond, like saying all of it's nourishing, all inclusive wholeness, and go into more details, the next layer is the Nguzo Saba. Thank you for asking. I don't know. Do you want to say what Kwanzaa means to you again? I mean, you said it in Umoja, right? Or no, you said it in Kucha video. But for all those who haven't watched,
I did.
have you say it again?
Okay. So Kwanzaa is very special to me as well. I remember the first time I learned about Kwanzaa, I didn't really understand it fully, but it was in, I think, high school, first year of high school. We had like an assembly at the school I was in, and Mama Maria Broom came and did like an assembly on Kwanzaa, just kind of sharing about Kwanzaa. And I was one of the few people who like really engaged her about it. Most of the people are just kind of like, what is this thing that has nothing to do with us? And, I was in a Jewish school, and but I was, I heard the drums, and I was like, yo, I like this, and it's so much like Hanukkah, and it's like, and I, and then learning about the principles, and I was just like, oh, like these principles are like familiar to me. Like I grew up in my home, particularly. Not every Jewish family talks about like the Kabbalah or the Sphira, which is like a more mystical understanding of certain energies. How like the energetic becomes physical reality. Like it's like a whole science of energetics, and my parents were very into that. And there's even people who on Hanukkah, like each night of Hanukkah, I just learned this. We didn't do this growing up, but each night of Hanukkah, they talk about a different principle, a different sphira, they call. And for Kupanda, when we did Kupanda, that was one of the things that was just like so much fun, was to be able to correlate and see the connections between the principles that I grew up with and the principles that Ife grew up with, and how similar they were. They're like Chesed and Umoja and Gevura and Kujicha Gali. And it's just like we went down the list and like in order, pretty much in order. We swapped like two. But there's each single one correlated to another. So, that's one thing that, I always have, just like a familiarity. Like even my first Kwanzaa was here last year, and it just felt so familiar. Like, and I love coming together with family, and love coming together with family over in an empowering way. Where like, we have some screens, but nobody's off in their own screen, like, distracted from what's going on. But like, we're all here sharing space. It's one energy, one person speaking, everybody else listening. Of course, we we got our laughs and we get, we have our fun. But it's just it's always gonna be a special holiday. I'm always gonna be pumped to like have this time of year to be able to celebrate, as a family, all the holidays that we share. This year we got to celebrate Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, whatever you want to call it. But we were doing Kwanzaa, lighting Kwanzaa candles, and then a couple hours later going and lighting Hanukkah candles. And like it was just.
I did everything I could. We didn't like burn anything in the room. Don't worry. I just felt really comfortable with it.
Anyway, I've said a lot. I could say more.
He says he can say more.
But I'm gonna leave it at that. It's I feel honored to be here and to share this space with y'all, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's gonna evolve, because I feel like I've come into the family and come into at a point when we're ready to use these principles. We're ready to take action and take next steps to really realizing these principles in our lives, not as just something that reorients us once a year after we've gotten caught up and in the struggle, but that one that actually brings us into the struggle with empowerment, and one that gives us a common language, common tools to work with together to overcome the challenges that we face.
I should. All right, so I think Ranil's the only one who didn't answer the question. I don't know.
I want to say that when I first experienced Kwanzaa was here, and it was many years ago, but it was a blessing because it showed me like the true sense of unity. It really showed me that it's just so much to that. I mean, I've heard about it, and I didn't know too much about it, but I never experienced anything like this. The togetherness, the family, the fun, the just how it influenced other people. How I see so many people get larger and larger and larger every single time, and how it has so much of an impact on other people outside of just this family. There's so many people that actually look forward to this moment when we all come together to hear the stories, to hear our Green sit up and tell everything, and just to have the whole Kwanzaa celebration is just an experience that I will never ever forget. My family till this day still talks about Kwanzaa. So I just say thank you for being that presence in our family, because it's impacting not just the Aziz village, it's impacting so many other families that didn't know about it, that are now teaching their families or wanting to learn more about it. So I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna close off with the. Wait, because Mom, did you get to say what Kwanzaa meant to you? I mean, no, you the one who started all this.
It was about in 1970 when I was part of a group of people who were studying Kiswahili, and I believe it was an organization I told you about, but we were all young people then trying to, in the 70s, find a foundation, and that's when Kwanzaa, I think, started in 66. Okay, I heard 66. So we just heard about it, and we wanted to have a family beyond our bloodline. We wanted to all come together. And the very first ones is where I learned the symbols and said this is something we need to continue just so that we have, and I know we have our faith and our religions and our families, but this is something that we need to spread a foundation, like you talked about, because look what's happening now in the streets. A lot of children don't have foundation and purpose. So I'm not saying this is the answer for everybody or it's the all be it for everybody, but it is a reminder time, the principles, a time to reflect and to regroup. Okay, yeah, that principle, I need to get on that all year round. So it does my heart good. Wonderful to see 4 generations now celebrating what I'm hoping and praying will carry them through their lives. I got 5 generations who came last.
Oh yeah, Aunt Lila's still right.
Aunt Lil who's 90,
95.
95.
That's
That's right.
Commission. Yeah.
Don't tell her I said
She watching. She watching. All right, so we're gonna end this.
You want to sing one more
Oh,
song?
our live video ended on Instagram. Sorry.
It just ends on its own?
Yeah, I guess it only can be for so long. So sorry, Instagrammers. All right, so I guess I could do another one. Won't they let me do another one? Nah, they uploading it. All right, whatever. So we're gonna do what, Harambe, right? Is that Shama? Is it our song?
So we're about to end.
What do you think? We're gonna sing our song?
I said, do you want to sing one more song?
No. Yeah, let's do Harambe.
All right.
All right. So,
Why would you do that?
oh gosh. Okay. All right. So basically, Father, do you want to talk about what Harambe?
Harambe means let's pull together. It's something that we began doing, and we do it in Kwanzaa celebrations and at other gatherings, going back to a lot of different organizations we've been a part of over the years. So we raise our fist in the air and we pull it down, saying Harambe 7 times. And the 7th time, we say it as long and as loud as we can. So, clear it up. Harambe! 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 Harambe!
All that capoeira.
All right. Thank you, y'all.
Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube. Don't judge my hair. Please subscribe to our YouTube, Rooted Crowns. YouTube.com/C/Rooted Crowns. Facebook.com/Rooted Crowns. Instagram.com/Rooted Crowns. Patreon.com/Rooted Crowns. And we have a shout out.
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, ADKWise21. Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing y'all again. Maybe next year, probably in a week. Because we'll have another video in a week. All right.
World. How about that?